everybody. This is Pete from PA Labs, picking up where we left off from video 6 and starting video 7. So, where we left off exactly was right here. Now, our next set of code we want to play with is the save and cancel buttons. So, let's come on over here and we can add them in here, right? So, case. And this would be gadget, FRM person, and we are going to have save and case, pound gadget, ET, FRM person. And then you can be cancel. And cancel's an easy one. Oh, but let's go ahead and put our normal event stuff in here. Okay. And then we can just copy this up here. And you've hit cancel, and we're going to shut everything down and get the heck out. Okay. And then up here, we can drop this code back in there. Oh, didn't like my click. Okay, and let's see. Well, what we want this to do is call save, right? So save employee is down here. Hold on now, let's see. So his job is done by calling save. So let's come up here and let's declare a save function. Declare save. All right, now we're doing good. We're cooking with gas, as the old expression says. Okay, so now what are we wanting to do here? Well, we have a big choice, and I know where I want to go. And so let's do this way. Initially, we're going to come in here, reverse what was done here. This took everything from the object and loaded the screen. So we have to take everything off the screen now and load it back into the object. And yeah, you could put that there, but I like to keep these control loops as skinny as possible. Putting a whole bunch of code in just slows down the entire event loop. So here, what we're going to do, this is kind of a cheating, but it makes sense when you watch me do it. I'm going to cut him off, back up, change that to a G, paste that in and say equal. And now I have reversed how that looks, doesn't it? So here we're going to do the same thing. I'll get rid of this, add an extra parent, and then we can say value of get, paste him in and let him be equal. So there we've reversed. Now we've taken everything off the screen and we've put it back into the database. And then what we're going to want to have is our link. We have to do a shared SHARED, shared employee employee list, right? So we have our shared employee list here. Yipes, come on, hit the right key, Pete. All right, now, and then what we're going to say here would be to add element ELE, oh, there we go. Add element to our employee L-O-Y-E-E list. Okay, but before I do that, I have to go to last element. This is actually a very important step. When you are adding stuff to the the list, you always want to add at the bottom, and you won't always necessarily add at the bottom. Other functions may run if you're doing a for each and it bails out at element 5 and there's 10 elements. Well, then your pointer is sitting there at element 5, and then when you say last element, he inserts it at 5. Okay? So what we want to do is make sure we're at the last of the element of the employee list table, then add him, and then we can say, okay, so now you can equal our selected employee. Okay, so then that would be his save. So he's done. Okay, so let's follow our logic through. So here, now what you also really want to think about, and let's put this in at the top. The purpose of this function is to save the data, save our object to wherever it is it's going to save. Maybe it's going to save it to a INI file. Maybe it's going to save it to a database. Maybe it's going to save it to a list. Doesn't matter. His job is to save. Now, what you can also include in here is some minor validation. Okay, but it's really not the saves function to validate. That should be a validate step to validate your data. Okay, because think of things we would want to validate here. We want to make sure your age is over 18. If you're under 18, you can't be in our employee. So you got to be at least 18, or maybe you got to be at least 21 if you're selling alcohol at your business. Okay, or that's Texas, or that's United States. I don't know what it is where you are. Maybe name, we know we have a 75 character limit on name, but what if they put in no name? They left it blank, or they hit a space, 2 spaces or something. Well, that would be an invalid name as well. Now, it's not really this guy's job to validate, but I guess you could make it that way. Nor is it really his job to do this step here. I always break this out and say, okay, I'm going to do this. Procedure. This would be employee load object step, okay? And end procedure. All right, now this can come up here, and all of those like things, if you got a big screen that's got 50 or 75 fields to deal with, well, that just takes this save and explodes it into this massive thing that's doing all this other stuff than what we say his job is. His job is to save. So here, what we would want to do is come into here, and he would call this step first. Go ahead and do it after that, I guess. So we would then come into here, and now we've taken care of loading that object, and then we could save. Since we don't have a validate step, if we had a validate step, then sure, what we would want to do is say, okay, validate procedure, employee, validate. Okay, I don't normally think of this in this context, and I will get you to think of it properly as well. Okay, and then procedure. There we go. So here we can say if this is going to return, excuse me, a true or false, protected Boolean return. And let's see, I'm going to set him to true. That way, all I got to look at for is the negative. Equals true. Whoops. And then we'll come down here and say procedure return, and that would just be our BOL return. Okay, now we can say in here we can say if length of selected employee name is less than 1, right? Oops, I'm sorry, wrong language. Doing C# again. Okay, then that's an error, right? And if so, inside this we would say return equals false. Okay, message requester, what the heck, error, ERROR, somehow that doesn't look right. Okay, and then we can see name cannot be blank. Oops, okay. And we want that to carry with it the full, oops, PB underscore error. Okay, so that's taken care of. And then we're going to say if, let's see, employee name length is greater than 75. Remember, we put a limit of 75 on our database. So cannot exceed, EXCEED, 75 characters. Okay, so then that error is in there. And let's see, age, huh? Age, if age, age is less than 21. How about that? Okay, employee must be of age. Okay, so there's our errors, and then we return this. So now we can say we've loaded our object, and we can say if, what did we call this? We called this employee validate. And we can say if employee validate, then you're going to save him to our database. Other than that, you're just going to say we're done. Okay. So, let's see. Now this is not going to be correct. So let's think about what we're done. We're hitting save, and I don't want to pass a whole bunch of variable junk around. Let's come up here and say, let's build a close step. Let's come down here and build a closed step. Procedure, employee, close. All right, now what would his function be? End procedure. So he's got to deal with, whoops, where is this guy? So his job is to take care of that. All right. So if he takes care of this, all right, that would be all he needs to do. But if maybe this form had our table here had images and stuff, and we had working images, here's where you'd want to clear them out. And then what we can do is say, if the employee has passed validation, we've added them to our database, what we want to do is close. Now, what we're also going to want to do is call our list again, because we now need to add him to our list. We can simply do this and just reload the whole list. That's kind of cheating. Uh, that works okay when you got 5 or 10 or even 15, maybe even 25. But if you had 300 people in that list, ooh, baby, that's going to be crazy. We really wouldn't want to do that. But we'll fix that one probably on the next video. So we've got our close built, correct? Now, let's go ahead and declare him up here. EMPLOYEE close probably is there. Okay, so now where else are we closing the world down? Okay, if somebody's doing something, we've populated the screen. Maybe we've created test variables. Well, goodness, I don't want this guy to close the screen out. Let's call our close step here. And let's see. That really is pretty much it. Oh, we have our cancel, right? So we would want to close here. That way, what we've done is we have all these different ways of shutting down the screen and returning, and we want to make sure all the homework's done. So if I've created temporary objects, if I've created images, if I've created fonts, if I've created all these things, then where do you get rid of them? You get rid of all of them down here in the close step. You can say, hey, if this is an image, delete it. If it is a font, then, free it. All that kind of stuff belongs here. So you got one nice place to do that. So what we can do here is let's go ahead. I know this is getting long, but let's go ahead and say, what we want to do is this was for the moment, let's just leave this way. And let's see if our code compiles. It might not. Occasionally it doesn't. Let's see. Gadget FRM person quit. Yes. Goodness gracious. We should have thought of that. He's got to be shared down here, doesn't he? Okay. So remember, you can share it if it's built outside of a procedure. And we deliberately built him up here as a define. And again, this define has to be unique. That's why we're putting the table name or the form name into the quit command variable. That way he can be shared in up here at the load set, at the set screen. He can be shared in anywhere along the way that makes sense where you need to use him. which really only happens to be down here now. Okay, so now let's go ahead and see if this compiles. Well, that's looking possibly good. All right, now if I create, and let's come in here and say, I'm going to create Pete at age 25, and name cannot exceed 75 characters. Hey, that's pretty good. How did I do that? All right. Well, guess what? We know exactly where to go in our code, don't we? So if length of employee, is less than, duh. One of you were probably watching me type that going, dude, you're gonna get spanked in a minute. Okay, so we come into here and we can say create, and let's come into here and say Pete at age 25, and sure enough we get that. And let's say Victor, Viktor, oops, get on the right field, Viktor, and let's say Victor is 21. Whoops, not that. There we go. Oh, that's right. We said he's got to be less than, right? 21. Sure enough, and I used 21. So he's valid and it gets accepted. So check that out. Now, that I think is where I'm going to end this video, and we will pick the next one up right here.